Research shows that 1 out of every 14 women has experienced rape in their lifetime. Rape is any sexual activity with or without penetration that happens without the consent of the victim. Today, I bring you the story of man's dehumanization of a fellow human being. The story of a young lady, a 20 years old lady, who was brutally raped in Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria on the 18th of November 2023. My name is Dr. Grace Ijoma Adak Egege, and this is Therapy with Dr. IJ, your one and only Doctor of Happiness. So, on the 18th of November, this young lady, names withheld, got a WhatsApp chat from a bosom friend inviting her to a location. The unsuspecting young lady dressed up without knowing that her friend's phone had been stolen and hacked by young men who sent her the message. She went to the location that she was supposed to have a meeting with her friend, and there these young men, held her captive and forced themselves through threats into her. It is important to know that this young lady kept explaining that she was in her period, but they still, regardless, had carnal knowledge of her. They forced themselves into her and they didn't use protection. While they were raping her, they were drinking mkpụrụ mmiri. Mkpụrụ mmiri is a hard drug that some young men use here in Nigeria. So they were taking the mkpụrụ mmiri and were taking turns to rape her. So they battered and bruised her while she pleaded and wept, but they had no mercy. They took advantage of her. Man's dehumanization of a fellow human being. There are male victims of rape, but like I said earlier, women are mostly the victims of rape because 1 out of 14 women have experienced rape in their lifetime. So this young lady got to her neighborhood in her battered and bruised, vulnerable state, and she had to confide in a male neighbor who was very bitter, and decided to mobilize some other young men in the neighborhood. So they went in search of these 3 young men whose names are Obinna, Sida, and Divine. Luckily, Obinna and Sida were caught. They are currently in police custody, and hopefully justice will be served, while Divine escaped. So he is still being looked for. The law is trying to get hold of him. Now, what is my issue? If you are a rapist, your day of doom is near. If you don't repent, your day of doom is near. If you derive pleasure in defiling or molesting people who are weaker than you, your day of doom is coming, except you repent. Right now, currently, a doctor in Nigeria, Dr. Femi Olaleye, who was, at the time he was free, the director of Optimum Cancer Care Clinic, is currently serving a life imprisonment for raping his wife's niece right under his roof. So you cannot escape judgment. It's a matter of time. Judgment will catch up with you. For every young woman old woman, young man who has experienced rape, I'm so sorry. I'm sending you my hug, my light. I understand how you feel, but there is hope for you. See, you need to accept that what has happened has happened. That is the first thing. And then you need to see a therapist. What a therapist will do for you is, one, the therapist will assess your situation. There the therapist will do what we call trauma history. Okay, therapy will check the effect of the rape on you. Then the therapist will also look at how peculiar your situation is. People are different, people's realities are different, people's cultures are different, so cases are peculiar to the individuals who have that case. So the therapist will check how peculiar your case is. Then the therapist will do what we call post rape adjustment. The therapist will guide you through post rape adjustment. So it's important you see a therapist. The therapist, luckily, there are so many of them in Nigeria. They are confidential, so your news will not be out there. The therapist will protect you because the therapist is bounded by the ethics of his or her profession to protect you. So you need therapy. Then the therapist could also do a combination of reality therapy and prolonged exposure therapy. Another name for exposure therapy is flooding. Is a therapy section that is almost like watching a horror movie, but in that therapy section, there will be a recorder and you will narrate the good, the bad, the ugly of that incident, every single detail, while the therapist will help you to come to terms with the feelings. Okay, the therapist will re-educate you and try to change your mental, or rather your perception of the incidents. And at the end of that, the therapist will give you the tape which you will replay at your own time. But it is not automatic. It is a section that will last for a long time, minimum of 12 sections, but maximum of so many, you can't even tell. It depends on how quick the person is able to recover. So after all of that, the more you listen and talk about you listen to the tape, the more you go for the therapy section, gradually the effects of the rape, the effect of the incidents will start to reduce until the victim becomes mentally stable. So all hope is not lost. Don't give up on yourself if you're a victim of rape. I know that members of the Counseling Association of Nigeria, Imo State branch, will seek out that young woman to help her navigate through this difficult period of her life. I am certain that they will do that. But if you are raped, there is hope for you, and I'm sending you love and light. Do not give up. Okay, don't give up. And if you're a rapist, repent. I love you. This is Therapy with Dr. IJ. See you in my next one, and it's bye for now.